Hello, everybody. My name is Hope Redhead, and today we will be discussing navigating ethical complexities in wastewater surveillance. Today, we'll be highlighting the challenges of balancing public health benefits and individual privacy concerns in wastewater surveillance. So our agenda today will be discussing these 5 major topics, starting off with what is wastewater surveillance. So what is wastewater surveillance? In this context, it is a diverse blend of substances that find their way into our drains. Wastewater can hold clues about how healthy a community is and can be used as a strategy to monitor for diseases and early detection of public health trends on a global scale. So this diagram here, this is kind of showcasing what wastewater is what is considered wastewater. So anything that comes from our drains in our home to our drainage systems like our gutters and our stormwater drainage. Anything that basically leads to the sewer system is considered wastewater. So what is wastewater surveillance? Wastewater surveillance involves analyzing sewage for indicators like pathogens, drugs, or biomarkers. By studying these indicators, it provides insight into a population's health, drug use, or exposure to pollutants. This method is valuable for monitoring infectious diseases, public health trends, and environmental concerns. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, wastewater surveillance has been used to detect the presence of the virus in communities, serving as an early warning system. Piggybacking off of the early warning system, I just wanted to showcase how we are able to take these samples. So the virus was, we shed the virus, which eventually leads to the sewer systems, where we are able to take samples at wastewater treatment plants, which go through extensive lab testing, where we are able to then extract the RNA from the COVID-19 virus and be able to do a quantitative PCR, which basically means we are able to figure out how many COVID proteins are in each sample. Speaking of sampling, I'd like to just draw attention to UW's relationship with this technology. So UW was pretty influential in scaling this down versus scaling this up. So instead of doing this on a macro scale where we take samples at wastewater treatment plants, we're actually able to sample on a smaller scale and be able to figure out how campus is doing in regard to COVID-19 cases. So moving on to this diagram, I just wanted to again put emphasis on how amazing this technology is. We are able to kind of predict how the COVID-19 cases were going to kind of peak and if they were going to drop off. So the red dots are actually the clinical cases where they were reported, and the blue is actually the estimated / predicted peak. So you can see it's fairly accurate. And I mean, this is even in 2021 where this was still pretty new technology. So some ethical dilemmas. So for this section, I'm going to be referring to the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health case study, where they came up with the 5 major privacy concerns. Ethical concerns, sorry. So the first one being privacy concerns, where wastewater surveillance involves the collection of data that in principle could be traced back to individuals or specific groups raising privacy concerns. Second one is the lack of individual consent. So the nature of wastewater data collection often does not allow for individual consent, posing challenges to ethical principles of informed consent. The third one being potential for stigmatization, particularly when conducted in specific locations such as school, UW, campus, or prisons, has the potential to stigmatize certain communities or groups based on the data collected. There's data ownership and responsibility. As of right now, defining ownership of wastewater data is unclear, which introduces ethical questions about responsibility, proper data usage, and prevention of improper sharing. And the last one is a concept known as function creep and future-oriented applications. So the article highlights the potential for future creep in future-oriented applications of wastewater research where the original purpose may shift over time. So right now we're using it for COVID-19. Who knows what we might use it for in the future? So the stakeholders. I'd like to address 3 stakeholders today. So the first one being the public health authorities, which main objective is to aid in early detection and monitoring of public health threats. The interest is disease surveillance, and the concern is maintaining public trust. The second one is governing bodies. So they implement and regulate these surveillance programs, shaping policies and ensuring compliance. The interest is to implement effective surveillance, but the concern that they have is public perception. And then the last one is the general public. So, the data contributors, so that interest is ensuring public personal privacy, sorry. And that concern is basically the lack of control and misuse of that data. So my alternative courses of action, I have three. The first one being maximizing data collection, which is prioritizing public health benefits over privacy and emphasizing collective good. The next one is limited data collection with consent. This is to safeguard the individual's privacy while utilizing surveillance for public health benefits, which is kind of like a combination. And then this last one is complete data anonymization. So even though the data will be anonymous, the efficiency and basically accuracy of the data collected will kind of suffer. So my personal recommendation, there's pros and cons to each of them. There's no kind of correct answer. This is still a fairly new technology on such a large scale. And I do believe that we have kind of blown this to a crazy scale because of like public pressures. And obviously during COVID, we needed to kind of help as much as we can in detecting and kind of keeping numbers down and people out of hospital. However, we're now kind of backtracking and figuring out all the just like fine tuning it. So which solution do I recommend? A combination of all three. I believe we need to implement strict protocols for data protection. We need to also obtain consent when it's feasible, and keeping the kind of anonymity of the data to balance the benefit and ethical considerations. So again, there's no correct answer. These are all, it's basically a work in progress. So thank you so much for listening to my ethical presentation on wastewater surveillance. Does anybody have any questions? And here are my references. Thank you.